welcome to yet another episode of the Maternity Show on African Renaissance TV with me, Sona Dabo. On this episode, I am joined by Mr. Fode Cisse. Mr. Fode Cisse is one young person that has been so much into activism in terms of health. And on today's episode, we will be looking at preparing for labor. And somebody would ask, why do we have a man to discuss this? But let's get to understand why. Mr. Fode, thank you very much for joining us on this episode.
You're
welcome. A pleasure having you.
You're welcome.
So, Fode, tell us about you in one or two sentences, maybe.
Yeah, actually, I am Fode Cisse, unofficially regarded as Prince Fode. And I started my career as a patient in Brikama. Progressively, then I became a volunteer. From there, a junior nurse, a departmental nurse, and ended up being as an acting administrator and the head of hospital at the time. Wow. So I think this is a bit inspiring for young people. And in short, this is my career background.
Now that we know why we are having a guy to discuss our topic with us today, Mr. Fode, so let's get this rolling already. We've done episodes on pregnancy, bad preparedness, and complication readiness. And now we want to look at preparing for labor. This is one thing that every woman is looking up to, and people will tell you it's one pain that is. Some people would determine it, call it as enjoyable yet painful, because it's something that is leading you to a joyous moment. But it's something that no matter what painkiller you take, you still feel pain. So let's understand what are the do's and the don'ts of preparing for labor. But let's start with how should a body, especially a woman's body, be prepared for labor?
Okay, thank you very much. One very important thing is that if a woman is actually trying to bear a child, that particular woman should be prepared psychologically, should be prepared socially, and also physically. So that is the reason why we always try to advocate for women to be able to put in schedules on when to get pregnant itself. Right. You should plan on when and how do you want to be pregnant. This is very, very key because it will determine progressively how your labor outcome is going to be. So first of all, you have to prepare your mindset around pregnancy itself. If that happens, then you can actually move to the next level, which is actually trying to have your first antenatal booking. You confirm that you are pregnant. So this is a very crucial stage for women. When they visit the hospital, the first thing they will ask to do is to actually try to find out if this woman is really pregnant or not. It's not only that if somebody starts vomiting at home or start actually being lazy in the morning, and you could actually categorize this woman as pregnant. Right. No. So you have to be actually in the hospital for you to be diagnosed as somebody who is pregnant first. You see? So from there, you have to be put on bookings. And on those bookings, there is a yellow card that will actually tell you what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed not to do. Right. So on that yellow card also, before we proceed further, I would like to tell you that in the hospital or in the health center, 1 + 1 is not always equals to 2. Right. It can give you a different result based on what is actually happening on ground. So for that particular woman, they should actually try to change themselves completely. The lifestyle should be changed because pregnancy itself can suppress the immune system because there is over-secretions of hormones, the endocrine system is actually affected, the physical system is affected, the circulatory system is affected. So all these things are actually predisposing a woman to a situation called immunosuppression. Exactly. So it's very important that they actually have to be on that line of the advice that the healthcare workers will give them on ground. So that is actually a background on why a woman should be really prepared for labor.
Yeah. So we had this episode on ANC and even on let's say pregnancy preparation. So some of the key things that were highlighted was something like this. So let's get to understand from that level what really happens.
Yeah, so actually you should, now the technology is advancing every day. And if you actually get to the hospital after going through an ultrasound, that is scanning, they will be able to determine and tell you when do you need to give birth. So that is plus or minus 2 weeks. It can be 2 weeks prior to the date that they give you, or 2 weeks after the date that they give you. So you as a woman should be prepared for that particular situation. Because before this is not happening, but now they can tell you the sex of the baby, they can tell you when you need to give birth. So if this happens, there's what we call the birth preparedness. We have a list of materials, we have a list of things that a woman should be be with. Number one is for the husband to be on ground when the woman should give birth.
Yeah.
Number two is for that particular husband to find out which particular group, because these are information that are found on the yellow card, your woman's blood group is, so that it will help you in terms of emergencies. So what you do as a husband is to actually look for people with the same blood group with your wife. In case of emergency, you'll be able to reach out to these people to actually donate your wife in a very short period, which can actually boost up the birth outcome. Number four is for that particular guy also, the same thing. The husbands have a big role to play, to be present and have the date when the woman should give birth. Logically, this gives power to the in the labor if they see their husbands around them in the labor room. So basically what we're trying to say here is that husbands also have a crucial role in trying to prepare a particular woman for labor.
Okay, so let's go back to the facility you're coming from. Let's say Brikama District Hospital. It's among the biggest that we will count in the Gambia that offer services to women. So in terms of preparation for labor, what is the role of the health facility and the nurses in terms of preparations for labor?
Okay, once again, Brikama District Hospital is one of the biggest and one of the busiest, wherein they actually can deliver about 42 babies in a day.
Yeah.
So that is massive. And the role of nurses or the health facility in terms of preparing women that are coming for labor, number one is to actually give these women information on when they have to actually give birth. Number two is to prepare the environment, because the environment should be actually conducive for somebody in labor. But unfortunately, sometimes we have some challenges. However, under standard conditions, these women should be actually escorted by somebody who is very strong. Not all women or all men. It should be somebody who is very strong to be able to support them.
Preferably the partner.
Preferably the husband, the partner. So the nurses on ground should be able to inform that particular woman the moment she came into the labor room, to tell that woman, how long are you, by projection, how long are you going to stay here before you deliver?
Yeah, because some people can just be frustrated by waiting.
Yes, because they don't get the information. You should, because there is a measurement. If a woman is in labor, there is a specific measurement that you do, and there is a specific form that we call the patograph that you fill for them, that will progressively tell you when, by time, when this particular woman should give birth. The exact time, but you can estimate. But the nurses on ground should be able to tell this woman as they move along the line, we are expecting you to deliver in the next hour, because this helps them also to keep their patient, because they are afraid, they have anxiety. So they should be able to actually inform them about that particular situation. And again, also the environment, as I said, should be conducive. They should clean the environment should not be very hot. You know, they also should be very polite with the patient.
That is important.
Because these women that are coming to labor should not be actually in any form of stress. Because you know, labor itself is stressful and it's painful. So you cannot actually add another stress to what they are actually having first. So it's important for the nurses and the healthcare staffs to be very polite, to be very welcoming, to be very, nice to the patient, and also keep privacy. That is very, very important.
Yeah.
If somebody is in labor, they don't want to be seen by other individuals. So that is why it is very important nowadays that you see other people, they will come from, for example, in Bansang, they will prefer to go and deliver in Bundung maternity, for instance, because they prefer that environment, perhaps because there is a lot of privacy.
Yeah.
They can be in there, they deliver very nicely, and then they get home without anyone seeing them or without anyone coming in contact with them. So
Right.
privacy is also very important, and confidentiality. If a particular patient have confidence in the healthcare worker or in a particular personnel, it helps them to prepare their mindset, and that will also gradually boost up their power, their energy in terms of giving them an early level.
Right.
So, of course, the healthcare system or the health facility and the nurses on ground have a bigger role to play.
Yeah.
And if their roles are actually mimicked, this will have an outcome, a negative outcome on the birth.
I mean, this point for every woman is usually confusing, and sometimes they do things that they are not really aware of. So I think your issue on privacy and confidentiality is something that we really need to hold on to as professionals.
Absolutely.
So let's come back to the woman in general in the society. So we know that there are different stages in labor, and of course women are expected to be in particular body positions or shapes. What advice would you give around this?
Okay. It's quite essential for women to involve themselves in light exercises in the light of preparing for labor. Because sometimes you see a very thin woman, you know, and you think that this particular woman might not actually be able to give birth on her own.
Yeah.
You know, it all depends on the pelvic brim, that is this hip that you're seeing. It depends on the nature of that hip. But again, carrying light exercises also will actually boost up the energy in order to help you to push that baby during labor.
Yeah.
So one most important thing is that women actually that are in labor and they are almost due should carry out light exercises like walking around, like actually squatting, like Calisthenian exercise, being on bed and trying to lift the foot like this and bring it down,
Yes.
up like this and bring it down. Perhaps if they have a younger, child, maybe sometimes they are pregnant and they have a child that is maybe 3 years old, it's also important that they also have some playing with these kids.
Yeah, this will distract them.
Exactly, this will actually help them also. As they are playing with the kids, sometimes they are lying down, the kids are on them and they are stretching their hands, they are stretching their feet. I mean, these are things that will actually help them during labor.
Would massage be an important aspect?
Of course it will, and here we recommend that the husband can actually help him to help the woman, the pregnant woman, to massage them, because this is very key. If somebody gets pregnant, their cardiac activity, that the circulatory system will change.
Yeah.
You know, all the veins will be actually filled up with blood and they will be tended. So that is the reason why sometimes you look at their legs and you will see some kind of marks like this. The veins are actually engulfed. If you touch them, they are actually filled up with blood. So it's essential for them to be having regular massage, preferably by their husbands, because usually these are actually located in places that are very, private. Sometimes on their thigh, bilateral, on their legs also, on their calves also. So it's important for the husband to also help them trying to actually offer them massage.
Yeah.
And having said that, it is important also for them to also look at what they should take and what they should not take. That is quite essential.
This will take us to the mind, maybe.
Exactly. So that will be also determined by what expected outcome is actually likely to happen in terms of that woman's presence in the labor room. Yes.
Right.
So additionally, it's also very important for that particular woman to be around the environment that is also safe for them. The environment at home should be very, very safe, because we are trying to actually prevent some kind of, falls or some kind of accident. But there are some important things surrounding that particular safety of a particular woman at home environment. But perhaps we'll actually get there, and we'll be able to end up more on that.
Exactly. So at this point, we would just like to take a quick break, and then we'll be back shortly on more questions.
All right, thank you.
Welcome back from that short break. If you're joining us now, this is the Maternity Show on African Renaissance TV, and we are looking at preparing for labor. Of course, I am with Mr. Fode Cisse of Brikama District Hospital. Fode, before we left for that break, we were looking at some of the do's around preparing for labor. Let's look at our women in the rural Gambia, for instance. These are people that might not really be opportune to have access to some of the things that our women in the urban Gambia would have access to. Example, going to attend bathing classes, preparing for labor room classes and all other things. So these are people that don't even know what type of bath they are opportune to select from. They only know that there is cesarean section, there is vaginal bath, also I don't know how you guys would call it. So let's look at these people in this condition. What would we say to them?
Thank you once again. Actually, there are a lot of options in terms of what type of bath do you want to undergo.
But first, are women allowed to choose?
Yes, women are allowed to choose.
Good.
Of course, you can go in for a spontaneous vaginal delivery, that is the normal delivery, or you can go in for a cesarean section. But you understand that over the years, women are actually afraid
giving birth on their own.
Because of one reason or the other, that people that were going or undergoing operations like cesarean section, most of them, that is a miss though, most of them were not actually making it up later in life. And this scared a lot of people, even at a point that you receive a patient, a particular woman, with a fetal distress. Fetal distress is when the baby is actually very distressed inside the womb, and you see that the baby, there is a stain of meconium perhaps, and you look at the fetal heart also, because there are machines that can check all these things. You look at the heartbeat of the baby is actually rising up. That is showing that the baby is tired. So if that happens, you really want to roast that baby for a cesarean section. If the baby, if the woman cannot actually give birth on her own. But sometimes it's very difficult. And in the healthcare system, you cannot do a particular procedure for somebody without actually seeking their consent. So sometimes it's really worrying. You talk to them, you try to counsel them to be able to, for them to be able to be consented for a particular procedure like cesarean section. So it's very difficult because they are afraid. You tell them operations, come on, they are very afraid.
I think it's education around it for women.
Yes, so especially now looking at women in the rural Gambia. So it's quite very sad that women around that environment are not even having proper antenatal services. Sorry to say it, because one reason or the other, I'm not blaming the health facility here. Sometimes we actually look at it from the community perspective, or sometimes we are looking at it from the healthcare, what is available. You know, sometimes some women, they will sit at home, like in the villages, and they will not visit the hospital. Like one time in our village, there is a particular woman who has some issues and was pregnant. if you ask her to visit the hospital, she was not actually willing to visit the hospital for her antenatal service. So if somebody who does not actually attend antenatal service, of course we expect the bad outcome to be bad. Of course, because there is no precaution, there is no care taken of the woman. So we expect them. So unfortunately, most of the people at the rural Gambia find this very difficult because there is lack of that awareness for them to be able to be in the hospital, to be able to finish or attend all these bookings. So that gives us a lot of challenges as far as we are concerned. And again, it's difficult in terms of trying to convince these women because the educational level, as you said, is actually very low. And most of the time, the health promotion and education unit also of the Ministry of Health also, I think also can do better by transmitting a lot of information to these people.
That's a recommendation.
We have to actually get there to be able to talk to them, to be able to talk to them in their own language, to be using the people that are living in the community, like the village health workers, like the VDCs. We talk to them directly, we show them what they need to do, we educate them, and these people will actually go back to the community and translate this information. Because sometimes you tend to believe someone that you live with than somebody who will just come as a stranger to talk to you. So in short, women in the rural Gambia find it very difficult to even choose between choice of birth. So usually they will go in just for them to be in a labor room to have a spontaneous vaginal delivery. But in case there is a problem, they don't have any choice. They have to actually choose something. Sometimes you ask them for a consent, they will tell you, you just decide what is better for me. And that is actually implicative sometimes.
Well, but that is why we still have the village health workers and the CHNs as well in the communities. So maybe at the end of the show, we should be able to give them recommendations.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've looked at exercises, we've looked at massages, we've also looked at mental health in terms of preparing for labor. What are we going to list as misconceptions that women would have in terms of preparing for labor?
Yeah, sometimes you hear women saying that if you go to labor room, don't allow them to add up you. That is we call it EPIS. You actually add up a woman in order to ease the baby to pass, for the passage. You know, sometimes, they are very tight, especially the prime, those that are starting, like the first pregnancy, and it's very difficult. What you have to do is to get the knife and at least add a bit so that the baby can pass. So sometimes you will hear women discussing this outside. Even me, I had, because where I live, we have a lot of women there. Sometimes I'm inside my room and I will hear them chatting. You know, these are things that they will ask women not to allow that sometimes. And this is very difficult because, as I said, if there is fetal distress, and of course the baby should come out because it is time for the baby to come out. And the only way for the baby to pass, you don't vomit babies.
No.
Not so. So it has to pass through somewhere. And in that area, if it is a bit tied up, you have to actually do something that can help to adjust, and the baby can come out easily. Another thing also is very important is that you hear women saying to each other, you know, if you go to the hospital, perhaps if your labor is actually not very far, there is no need for you to visit the clinics. You know, it's okay if you do 2 or 3 visits. You know, that's fine now. At least you have experience. They will say, at least this is not your first time. You have experience in it. So this is another misconception that we actually see and hear around the environment where we live. And additionally, also, it's important that women, the misconception that the husbands should be present in that particular labor room. And that is a misconception that the guys or the men are also having, because they believe that they cannot be inside where the woman is giving birth. And they don't know that this is psychological, a supportive system to a particular woman who is in labor. Because if you see your husband standing, it gives you a lot of energy, it gives you a lot of enthusiasm to be able to push, to be able to actually deliver that particular baby without any problem.
Yes.
So basically, we have to control. I think we can do better also to be able to educate, to create awareness in the community for these women to be able to actually know what exactly is the truth and what actually is the myth or misconception.
So one worrying thing that we've come across is women talking to each other about the use of tobacco.
Yeah.
Telling each other that this is one of the fastest means to get you into the labor room.
Yeah, because if we look at that, is what we call induction, or you induce somebody. Perhaps sometimes it happens even in the hospital. For that is their conception anyway. In the hospital, sometimes if somebody stay for some time, you know, they are post-term, perhaps after 9 months they don't deliver. Sometimes what we have to induce those women to be able to deliver. But in the community also, they also have their inducers, where in the tobacco come also. They will tell you if you put the tobacco there or some other, they have a lot of things that they will be using at home for them to also induce locally for women. You'll see them, somebody with edema, bilateral. They have what we call PIH, pregnancy-induced hypertension. That's why you see them, all their feet are swollen from the foot up to the calf to the knee. And they will tell them, your time is due, yet still you don't deliver. So come, I have a secret for you. They will tell you, you have to put the taba inside or some of this aphrodisiacs inside, so that that will actually induce and your labor can commence. But these are things that are very bad for them. And as we said, these are things that don't only have effect, or that don't only have complication on the birth or during birth, but also can lead a lot of complications even after birth, or even give some issues to the baby. Because if the babies are actually delivered, you know, they are coming out. Sometimes there are a lot of fluids that will get into their mouth, in their nose, in their eyes. So you have to actually get a suctioner to get these things, fluids inside from their nose, from their mouth, from their eyes. So that's why if you go to the hospital and you see somebody who has a new baby in some facilities, what they recommend is, as far as they actually deliver somebody and the delivery is very safe, and what they will do is they will recommend an eye ointment for that particular baby, because they believe that there was a contamination along the process of birthing. So they will put some kind of eye medication in their eye as a prophylaxis, perhaps also as a treatment for some, because the eye will be contact with a lot of blood, with a lot of fluid, also, as you can imagine how labor could be. So you have to be able to precipitate all those things from the eye, from the mouth, you know, and all that.
As much as we want to talk about this, but I think this would be much more important in our next episode, which will be in the labor room. So for now, since we are left with not much time, let's just wrap up with this here. We know that preparing for labor is not just one-sided. We did look at the health practitioner side, from the woman's side. Let's look at the government aspect, and we just give 1 or 2 recommendations before we wrap up.
All right, thank you. So usually it's actually very difficult, and we all know that in the Gambia, the healthcare system is very weak, and if the system is weak, usually I think the expectation or the outcome will be also in a similar trajectory.
Yeah.
It's just like when you sow groundnut, you're expected to harvest groundnut.
Yeah.
You're not expected to harvest corn. So what I'm just trying to drive at here is that even the resources that are allocated for the ministry are not actually enough. For example, when I think an year or 2 years ago, I was trying to look at the budget that was allocated to the Ministry of Health. That actually met me at the outpatient, so I took my pen and do some mathematics. So you realize that in that particular year, every individual in the Gambia, you have $1,200 to take care of your health for the entire year. Wow. Imagine. So now maternity or maternal health it's a broad area wherein resources should be actually pushed in to be able to have a better outcome in that environment.
Right.
So in that side, actually, the Ministry of Health, I think, can still do better in terms of trying to look at the maternity units or in terms of looking at the maternity area. So in my opinion, the Ministry of Health is actually doing well, but there is still room for improvement.
Right.
And of course, they have the expertise, they have that knowledge to do it. So I don't know why it is not being done. But even in terms of trying to secure those resources to be able to boost up that standard at the maternity area, or even in the health system generally, is actually their responsibility, and they have the experts to do that, they have the knowledgeable people to do that. But I don't know what really is happening, but they should look at the health system very critically once again.
All right, Fode, I'm afraid this is all what we have on this episode, and then we will not just allow you go like that. What would you have to say before we leave?
So actually, finally, is what I have to say is that let the men support the women, especially the women that are actually pregnant, and perhaps the health system is weak, as I said, and this is not a secret. Everybody knows the health system is very weak. Sometimes you go to a particular hospital wherein you see women delivering, sometimes you have about 8 or 9 beds, or let's say 10.
Exactly.
And you have about 40 or so women are coming in labor. The men can always try to escort their pregnant women when they are due for delivery. From there, that will be very important, and I think basically this is something that every Gambian should try to do, as far as we are trying to work to end such kind of difficulties or challenges in terms of the maternity area. So Gambians should come together and try to at least take a dimension to at least remedy these challenges. So it is in our hands all together, you and I. So thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Fode, for joining us. We really appreciate the time you took to join us today. Viewers, this is what we have for you on this episode, and please do like, share, and follow for more videos that will come your way. Also, don't forget that this show is still open for partnership and sponsorships. Until we come your way next time, that's all we have. Bye.
Thank you.